Hello my friends, welcome to another tutorial. It's been a while, hasn't it? I've been so busy with my job and family life and finishing some commissions and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it's been a while. I've been very busy, but I'm going to do a nice little sunset for you today. Now, this is a fairly big size canvas, so I won't be able to show you the palette, I don't think. I might struggle to show you everything all at once with the reference photograph and all. So I will just put the reference photograph up with the canvas, all right? I'll explain to you what colors I'm using as I'm going. So anyway, I'm using a very thick canvas. This is a handmade one. I made this myself. Let me just show you. And I bought some canvas, just a simple roll of canvas, a 2 meter long by 2 meter wide canvas roll. And I can get those for around €30. Now, the advantage to that is you just get a lot more canvas and it's really good quality canvas. I do for some bigger paintings, I do like to just buy canvas and stretch it myself and make a frame and prime it myself. It can be cost effective because out of one big sheet of roll of canvas, I could maybe get 10 or 15 of these canvas panels, okay? If I was to buy this in my local shop, my local art store, it would probably cost me about 40 to 50 euros. So by buying a roll of canvas for maybe 20 or 30 euros, it just, I think it saves a lot of money. Now, this is an offcut of the canvas I have, okay? It's a big sheet of canvas. This really now is all I've left of a big 2 meter sheet. It's lovely canvas. It's very heavy, very strong, very good quality canvas. So, you know, it's much nicer sometimes to stretch your own canvas. Now, I might talk a few minutes just about that, if you don't mind, because a lot of people shy away from stretching their own canvas. They're afraid, maybe they're not sure how to do it, but it's actually quite simple to do. I'll explain to you how I do it, all right? So what I do is, now I have a big one over here as well, the same size, which is a finished painting, but there's a better frame on that, so I'm just going to grab it for you just for a moment. But I do apologize. So here we go. Now, this is one I finished a few days back. Shandon Bells in Cork City. I don't know if you can see that now. Lovely colours. And, you know, the nice thing about natural real canvas when you buy and stretch a canvas yourself and you prime it, it just keeps the colours lovely and crisp and fresh. And it has a beautiful grain when you're painting. I know some of the canvases you buy nowadays, the stretched canvases that you buy pre-made, they can be very thin. They're very thin canvases, and sometimes the grain is not really there. You don't feel the grain. With a natural handmade canvas like this, a stretched canvas, you can just feel the grain as you're painting. It's just beautiful. It really is. It has a lovely feeling when you're painting it. It's much more natural, and for softening colours, you can see lovely soft colours, and it was done very easily. Now, this is one I stretched also myself. Let me turn it around. You can see it's a deep 2-inch canvas, okay? This is one I stretched myself now. So you can see it's just simple, look. It's just a simple 2x1 timber frame, mitered at the corners. And what I simply do is I just simply pull the canvas with my hand around and staple it. So I go from left to right, or from one side to the other and outwards from there, okay? So I don't just go along one side first. I do this middle, then I do this middle, then this middle here and this middle here, and then I work my way out, alternating around the canvas, all right? Now, I know people say you need lots of stretching pliers and all that kind of stuff. I don't use that kind of stuff at all, because let me explain what happens. I just pull this fist tight, so I drag it around with my fist like this, hold it, and then staple it with a few staples. I do this all the way around. At that stage, you'll think it's probably not tight enough. It might have a lot of bounce in the canvas, but you see, what happens is when you prime the canvas with gesso, or say, let's say, what I use is white acrylic paint thinned out, and just give it 3 or 4 coats of that, and it's perfectly fine. But what happens is when the canvas material gets wet and when it starts drying out, it sort of shrinks and pulls the canvas tight, really tight. So that's what happens, okay? And what you're going for is this kind of, that kind of a sound, like a drum, all right? Now you can see the amount of movement in that, but that's absolutely perfect, I think. It doesn't need to be any tighter than that. So that's what happens when you're stretching a canvas. When the fibres of the canvas get wet and when they start drying out, it pulls everything in together tight, so it shrinks basically. It shrinks the material very slightly and it pulls on the frame and makes it nice and tight. So you can just use your hand to pull the canvas around and staple it on. Okay, you don't need special pliers. You can get them if you like, but I don't feel the need to do that. And it's just a case then of folding them at the corners. Okay, fold them nicely at the corners and you have a lovely heavy stretched canvas, and it just makes a beautiful surface to work on. So I made another one for this tutorial. Okay, here we go. You see, it does a little bit of play. You see the bounce in that? It's just a nice little bounce. That's perfect. That's what you want. Now I used some old stretcher bars for this one. Okay, this was off a previous canvas. I just cut the stretchers down. I took off the old canvas. I cut the stretchers to my size and I just stretched my canvas again with my hand around the stretchers, stapled it along with a good stapler, and I primed it, just finished priming it now. I gave it 3 coats of white acrylic paint, just a regular tube. I don't know if I have one here. Let me see. So that's what I used, look, just a regular cheap acrylic tube of paint. I added some water just to thin it out, and I gave this 3 coats. So you can see the difference now. Nice and white, isn't it? Makes a big difference. And that's it, finished. So it's, look, do try it. Try stretching your own canvas, because it really is the fun in knowing that you made your own canvas from scratch and you painted your own painting. When you see the finished result, it's just so satisfying. I think sometimes I love to just stretch them like that and paint something nice. Now in this case I want to paint a beautiful sunset, a nice colourful sunset of the ocean going out, okay? Very striking colours. I think this shape would be lovely for a big sunset, so I'm going to paint it on that. And there we go. I have my tile, my ceramic tile here with my paint on there. So I'll set this up next to me and we can paint. So that's just a quick kind of an introduction to stretching your own canvas. You know, it can be, if you're painting bigger canvases, it can be well worthwhile buying a big roll of canvas, raw canvas, all right? It is very cost effective. It may probably cost me, I suppose, with everything, the paint and the wood, probably €7 or €8 to make this canvas, to get it to this stage. Whereas if you buy them in the art shop, probably costs you €30 or $30 or $40 or whatever. So it's a big saving, you know. And this is the last of what I have left. I must buy more. But it's a beautiful canvas. It's very strong. You know, you can't even rip this with your hand. It's absolutely impossible. No matter how hard you try, you won't rip. With the cheaper canvases that you buy, ready, stretched and primed and all of that, you could just catch them like this and tear them down the middle. It's like paper. It's very thin. So that's why I love using this proper canvas every now and then. Do try it. It's well worth it, I promise. And it's a lot of fun as well as you go along. And the result is a beautiful canvas you made yourself, as a lovely grain, and it's not too smooth, it's not too rough, it's just nice. Okay, so look, I'm blabbering on here, I do apologise. Let's crack on and paint a lovely sunset. I hope you enjoy it, my friends. Don't go anywhere. Okay, my friends, here we go. I'm going to pop the reference photograph up there somewhere, bottom, perhaps, just so you can see it. Okay, very big canvas. I put a bit of masking tape across my canvas here, just at the horizon line, okay? Give us a nice straight line. And unfortunately, you can't see my palette, which is just to the left of the camera. I would never be able to fit the palette in with this big canvas as well. So I'll do my best to explain colours as I go, okay? I hope you understand. I have some turpentine with a little linseed oil in it here, just a little. What I might do first is, this is my dry primed canvas, I might put some linseed oil perhaps just across this. Now, I could just try some thinners as well. So let's take I've some thinners in a little bottle here, okay? This is turpentine with a little linseed oil mixed in already, okay? So it's mostly turpentine. Let me just take a tissue and see if I can just put a thin layer across the canvas. Now that may just kind of soak in. I'll just go across it very quickly. Okay, just like that. And what I'll do then is I'll take maybe perhaps a little linseed oil on its own, okay? Just a little touch of linseed oil. That will just kind of keep the canvas slightly wet for me, as it's a big canvas. And I want to keep the surface kind of slightly oily. Now, the good thing about linseed oil is it won't over oil the canvas. It won't make it too slippery. But it will be just enough to help the paint just kind of flow nicely and blend colours, help me blend colours nicely on the canvas. Understand what I mean? So I think just a little bit of linseed oil here and there won't help. Or, sorry, it will help. It won't do any harm. Just a little. A few bits of fluff coming off there, bits of paper from the tissue, that's fine. Just a little bit more, perhaps, just along the top. Now, I put that away. Just turn my tissue over here to a clean section of tissue paper. Just give all these a rub off here. Just try and get some of them off anyway, at least. Okay, that's fine. I think that's all I need. So here we go. Lovely sunset. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful, eye-catching. I think on a wide canvas like this kind of a scene is going to be just really eye-catching, isn't it? And we don't even need a frame or anything on this. We'll paint around the sides, and this will look stunning on a wall somewhere. Hopefully, somewhere. I will put it up for sale. But let's see. I might sell it. I might not sell it. Who knows? But it's no harm to put it up on Facebook and websites and all that kind of stuff, just to see. Somebody might like it. Okay, enough blabbering on by me. We've talked enough, haven't we? Let's paint. I'm going to start with the lovely blue, okay? It's a warm blue. So I'm going to take some titanium white, a little thinners on, just a tiny bit of thinners on this now, just to thin the paint on the palette, okay? Titanium white. I'm going to take some phthalo blue. And I want to keep these colours really dark and rich, not too soft. So plenty of blue and a little magenta, okay? The magenta will make this a nice, warm, kind of a rich blue. You could probably try French ultramarine as well. That's a very sort of a royalish kind of a blue, isn't it? A rich, dark blue. I prefer phthalo blue. It gives me more control of the deepness of the colour, I think. It's a nice rich colour. Now I have a nice little colour here mixed up on my palette. Let's just try this. So you can see that's kind of a nice rich blue, but it's not cold. It's kind of a warmish blue. Another touch of magenta perhaps. Now, can you see how that's moved on my canvas with the oil? Tiny, tiny bit of oil that's on the canvas. A tiny bit. And one brush stroke goes right across the canvas. Look at that. Now, if this was a very dry, irregular dry canvas, if there was no oil or thinners on this whatsoever, it would probably just go as far as there like that. But the oil just really moves it around, and that gives me a thin layer. So what I do when I'm painting, with oils especially, I start off with all of these layers nice and thin. Okay? That's the trick. Because later on, when you come to do the colours on top, they'll just stick much, much nicer. Just a tiny more touch of magenta in there, just to make this slightly more of a pinkish bluey hue, okay? You can understand what I'm going for, kind of a warm blue, a warm kind of a mauvey blue up there in the sky. Now, as it comes down, you can see we have lots of white pinky clouds. I'm going to start adding a pink. So I might just go for magenta, touch of magenta, and some white, okay? And this is just paint. Now, no thinners in this. And I'm going to start softening some pink just along the bottom of this blue, okay? Because, again, to avoid any greens, you want a kind of a layer of sort of a pinky mauve between the yellow and blue. Just a slight layer. If you look closely at the photograph, you can see when it comes down, it kind of goes into the soft pink, doesn't it, down the bottom. Now let me just take a touch of white as well. I find that's the trick with sunsets. The most important part of any sunset is where the mauves meet the oranges. And for that, I would definitely put a thin layer of a pinkish kind of a colour in there, okay? So you can see now we have a nice rich colour there. I'm going to come down, while I have this soft colour on my brush, I'm going to come down and start putting in some of the orangey, pinky colours. So I'm going to take a touch of magenta, I'm going to take plenty of white, and then some Naples yellow. And that will give us a lovely sort of, a kind of a peachy, pinky kind of a colour, okay? Now you could try cadmium yellow, that may be a little rich, but I'm thinking the Naples yellow is a beautiful creamy pasty colour. So look, I have a sort of, you see that kind of a warm pinkish hue. Naples yellow and magenta gives you that beautiful colour. Let's just go right across. Don't think about your sun or anything like that just yet, okay? Let's just soften that through. There's still tiny bits of blue on my brush, kind of rubbing off, but it's okay. Just make sure you have plenty of pink in the mix. All right, that's all. Now a little bit more, mix a bit more, and come down here and put that in. Now I will paint around the sides of the canvas and the top of the canvas later on, because if I do it now, I'm just going to be blocking the camera like this and taking too much time. So I'll just kind of match in certain colours and go around the sides like this later. Okay, there's no problem with that. Now, so we have that lovely sort of, you can see where touches of purple came off the brush there. That's fine, don't worry about that. Okay, now I might as well go around the side here as I have it on my brush. I suppose you're saying, wouldn't it make sense just to go around it while you have it on the brush? So let's just pop it in there very quickly. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect at all. Just a suggestion of the colour, that's all. Okay, we have some lovely colours now so far, don't we? We just soften it in a little bit here. I'm just going to kind of rub it across, just soften everything nicely together. I want a nice graduation. And look, you can see some brush strokes and stuff, that's fine. Because that helps give you a bit of direction in your painting. The next thing I'm going to do is darken up around these corners with some, let me just fix my reference photograph, nice dark purpley blues up here. Because I really want to kind of go from the outside dark to catch your eyes. Do you understand what I mean? So I'm going to take some phthalo blue, plenty of phthalo blue on the brush, and plenty of magenta. Going for a very rich kind of purpley blue, a rich sort of, how would you describe it? It's like a royal blue, a rich royal kind of a blue. Take a look. There. That's not bad now, sure it's not. Go up to the corners and just sort of bring that down. And you're creating a little bit of direction then and perspective by doing this, by bringing it down into the middle from both sides. You're creating a wonderful sort of perspective in your painting. So all the brush strokes are bringing your eyes down towards the center of the painting. You see that? Now as it comes down again, down around here, I'm going to just again pick up a little bit more magenta in that. So now we're going for a sort of a pinkyish blue. You see that? Let that soften away. Again, it's really just to separate the blue from the goldy, orangey colours, just to prevent any greens forming on the canvas. Now, that's not bad. I'm just going to cross that very lightly. We still have the direction of the kind of cloud coming down, the sky coming down, but I'm just softening them out just a little. Now I'm going to go even darker again. I want nice dark colour up in the corners. I'll take some phthalo blue, plenty of phthalo blue, some magenta, plenty of magenta, then a touch of black. Tiniest little touch. Plenty of black and plenty of magenta. Okay, that's giving us even a nice darker colour right across the top with that. And the very important part about all of this is to just remember to add plenty of magenta, because you need to keep the colours a sort of a warm hue, a warm pinky hue. That's the trick, okay? So don't be afraid to put in plenty of magenta, you see? A little bit of black and magenta up in the corner here. Don't be afraid. Okay, magenta is a very forgiving colour, so you know you can put in a lot. It won't make a huge amount of difference in your painting. So don't be shy with the magenta, folks. Okay, I'll go a little bit darker again. This time, some phthalo blue and a little black. Now that's kind of going a little bit on the cold side, so I might just again take out more magenta. I want these really dark corners. You know, on certain cameras, when you take a photograph, you can kind of create this sort of dark halo around the edges of the photograph. I'm going for that kind of a look, okay, just slightly. So I want to go nice and dark, just sort of at the corners, and then soften it down, like that, you see. And the beautiful thing about this proper, real stretched canvas is you can feel the beautiful grain on the canvas, okay? And it just, for some reason, it just seems to soften even much nicer together on a hand-stretched canvas like this, as opposed to a shop-bought canvas. It just really softens together lovely. And it doesn't, you know, what I find about some of the shop-purchased canvases is that when you're painting a sky like this, you get certain little dry spots, where you can see the paint has sort of dried into the canvas too quickly, and you get these little patches on the canvas sometimes. That's because it just hasn't been primed properly. It's been done with a cheap primer, and with this kind of a canvas and primed 3 or 4 times, you can see it's just completely smooth all the way across. Lovely colour, retains all the colours, and it just gives you a beautiful drag on the brush. Okay, I would say honestly, just try it. It really will. Just try it once. If you don't like it, that's fine. But always, I would say to you, always just try a stretched canvas yourself, okay? And remember, you do not need fancy tools or anything like that. Because I've been painting for the past 30-something years. I've never ever purchased a stretching pliers for a canvas. I never have. So I've always managed just fine using my hands and a stapler. And you can see this is a lovely tight canvas. As I said before, when you prime the canvas, it shrinks as it dries, okay? All the fibres of the canvas shrinks. It's like when you wash your clothes and put them in the dryer, cotton clothes, they kind of shrink slightly, don't they? But the canvas does the very same thing. So it makes it extra tight. So that's a good little tip for you, okay? Don't be worried about buying fancy equipment. Now I'm going to stop at that. I'll leave it at that. Let me just take a look on camera and see what that looks like on camera. That's nice. I like that. So I think now I need to put this brush away. I won't use this brush anymore because there's a lot of blue in this brush, and I could be here for an hour trying to clean this brush. So I'll put this down. I will take another brush, nice medium flat brush, okay? These are just general cheap old synthetic brushes. I'm going to start putting in some of the warmer colours. I will let this sit for a while, just for a little while, before I put my lovely clouds in up here, okay? But let's start getting some nice pinks and oranges on the canvas. Just dampen the brush and dry it, okay? It's barely even damp now, to be honest. I'm going to start with some nice pinks. I'm going to take some titanium white, a little cadmium yellow, and plenty of paint, nice and thick, and a touch of cadmium red, perhaps. Let's just try that and see. I'm getting a lovely salmon kind of a colour, okay? You see that colour? to sort of a nice warm salmon. You see that? Just pop a little bit of that across there. You can see I'm sort of, it's just a hit and miss type of effect. I'm just popping it across here and there. Go again, little Naples yellow, or sorry, little cadmium yellow, some white, some cadmium red. And it gives you this beautiful, warm, peachy, pinky kind of a colour. It really does. Let's go across the bottom. So this is slightly thicker paint now than what I was using earlier, and that's why it's kind of sticking much more to the canvas and it's covering much better. Now I'm going to take an extra touch of cadmium red with some white and a little touch of cadmium yellow this time. I want to keep this more on the pinky side. So it's almost cadmium red with some white, a touch of cadmium yellow in there as well. And I'm going to go just by the blue here and soften a little bit of that across up into the blue. And the reason for that is just to avoid any greens. So you can see where I have little touches of a kind of a yellowy colour here. If I put that up into the blue, it's going to go kind of a mucky green colour. So just by popping a little touch of pink, cadmium red with some white, just across and going up at an angle, look, to simulate those clouds coming up later. I'm going to pop a little bit up here as well. So this will then be a nice base for my clouds later on, okay? So at least I have a light base to work on my clouds. Now a little bit more of that colour again, a bit touch of that colour. Here. That's a bit yellowy, so I'll take a touch more cadmium red in there. You see, just to neutralise that bit of a green. And so we're just kind of building up our layers now, just starting to build them up slowly, bit by bit. Now one thing I do see down here on the reference photograph is a nice kind of a dark purpley colour coming in. So I'm going to mix a little of that. I'll take magenta, a little phthalo blue. I might even try some cadmium red actually, and a touch of phthalo blue as well. It's a sort of a nice plum, okay? It's a rich, dark kind of a plum. So phthalo blue and cadmium red, I'm going to try a little touch of that first. Bring that across. Soften it up into your sky. Just keep rubbing and rubbing and rubbing until you soften it out, okay? Nice little touch of a plum over there. As it comes forward, it starts getting nice and warm. So now I'm going to start switching to a cadmium red with a touch of sienna, okay? And then I might take a hint of Naples yellow into that. So we end up with this sort of a warm, it's sort of like a browny pinky colour, okay? Just going to try that across there for a moment. I'm going to soften a little bit of that across. I'm going to come across here and add a little bit of that colour over here. Now don't even worry about your sun, alright? I'm just first concentrating on the colours around the sun, okay, and coming out. That's what I'm focused on. I'm going to try a touch of magenta with that burnt sienna. That will give you a beautiful browny sort of a pinky hue. And remember, I'm softening kind of out at an angle. So that's brilliant. You see the way, as it is at the moment, we have our eyes coming down in towards the centre from those clouds coming in. That's what you need to try and achieve. Now a little bit of that plum colour as well over on this side. There's just a slightly deep colour coming in over here. Just a little bit of magenta and a touch of phthalo blue perhaps, just to deepen over here. You can see we have a little touch, especially at the horizon line, we have a little touch of a deep colour coming in to the painting, don't we? Now, a little bit of phthalo blue and some magenta again. Plenty of magenta, even a touch of cadmium red. And we have Again, a sort of a deep colour coming in over here. I'm going to soften that and bring it up at a slight angle, okay? Now you can skip one or two of these steps if you're finding this a little bit intimidating. Look, you can just skip ahead one or two steps. You don't really have to go to all of this trouble that I'm going to. I just want to make this really impact on the canvas, so I'm just adding these little things in, but you really don't have to, all right? So you can see now we have a nice combination of colors so far. So I'm going to clean this brush now very, very well, as clean as it can be, because I don't have any other brushes this size to hand. So I'm going to use this brush again. I gave it a really good clean out. Turn my tissue over because it's quite dirty, so we'll turn it over to a clean side. And let's start putting in some nice rich yellows. We start from the center and work our way out, okay? I'm thinking cadmium yellow, lots of thick cadmium yellow, and a touch of cadmium red. And I'll probably start with some of the darker colours first. So a very sort of a rich orange, you see that? I'll start with that colour first, I think, and I'll work into my lighter shades then in the end. So cadmium red, cadmium yellow, that gives us a very kind of a reddy orangey hue. Let's put that across the bottom like that first, softening outwards. A little more cadmium red, so we're getting a very deep orange. When you're coming out to these colours, just make sure you have plenty of red in that mix, okay? And that will make it nice and warm, you see? Plenty of red. Don't be shy with your red. So I'll clean my brush once again. I'll start going into a bit more cadmium yellow with a touch of cadmium red. So I've more yellow in the mix now this time. Getting slightly brighter, you see that? Slightly brighter and stronger. And again, thicker paint. So part one will just be the sky, and we'll stop then and we'll continue on part two at another stage, a different tutorial. So I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm going to start putting in some little touch of bright yellow, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow and some white, okay? But it's mostly 90% cadmium yellow in this, just a little white. And I'm going to just go for, I'm going to go slightly off center with this sun, okay? I think slightly off center is slightly better. Pop that lovely rich thick colour in there and soften it out. See, just soften it right, left and right, out into your sky. Like so. Now you can see we're starting to build up in the center of that sky. We're building it up as we go. And I think finally I might take a smaller brush then and go for the bright yellow sun in the middle. Thick yellow, cadmium yellow paint on its own. And let's just pick a point and pop some rich cadmium yellow in there first. And keep going, keep adding lots of thick cadmium yellow on its own, nothing else, okay? And I'm sort of flicking it outwards like that. I just want to really create that warmth around the sun first with some cadmium yellow. Pop it on, look, just leave it drift off into the sky here and there. And I think finally for the sun then we could just go with lots of white and a touch of cadmium yellow. Yes? So let's just start with the piece just kind of flicking outwards. It's sort of darting in and out of the clouds, isn't it? That kind of whitey yellow. So let's just pop that in, give it a little wiggle here and there. Look, it comes, kind of filters outwards, doesn't it? Around some of the clouds. And you have to clean your brush each time you do this because you're picking up the older paint, okay? So I clean my brush each time, mix up fresh paint, and you can see I'm just sort of giving it a wiggle where you see the way it's sort of going in and out of some of the clouds. There's little touches of that bright yellow here and there. And it seems to be primarily focused around the middle, doesn't it? I'm going to take some white on the tip of my brush and just try and get a very bright spot just in the middle there. Now it's difficult to do this because the canvas is very wet. You could probably use a palette knife if you wanted to get just a thick blob of white in the middle. But I can see it's a very rich whitey kind of a yellow colour, isn't it? So I'll go with a little white first. I'm going to put a nice halo of cadmium yellow around this first. I'm then going to soften that inwards, and I'm going to soften it outwards as well. So we have a nice halo of yellow around the center, and then let's take a touch of titanium white perhaps just on its own, and just put a little dab of that in there, soften it out. You see the way I'm very gently dabbing this, just softening it outwards very gently. I just wanted to sort of blend the way out into the painting around it. See how that's a nice soft little spot in the center of our painting. Now let's go again with just some white, and again just in the middle, create a soft spot there. Isn't that lovely? I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's quite nice. Okay, moving on. We're nearly there, folks. We're nearly there. Part one is almost finished. The next thing we need to do is these little nice pinky clouds coming up. I could probably get away with the same brush. For the sake of keeping this nice and simple, let's just use the same brush, okay? I'm going to get some more titanium white on my palette. Just a little. And I'm going to mix a nice pink, all right? A nice soft pink. Let's take some white and perhaps a touch of magenta. So white, a touch of magenta, and a touch of Naples yellow. But it's a lot more pinky, okay? The Naples yellow just sort of warms it just a little. Now with that colour, I have a lovely, rich, bright pink on my brush, okay? Look at that. Lovely, rich, bright pink. I'm going to just start putting in some clouds. So let's see. Look, we have one up here. Like that. Now don't soften or blend anything yet. We have a nice little one sort of flicking across the sky like that. You can see the way I'm just sort of flicking it, almost using just the side of the brush. We have one that sort of flicks like that outwards. Just being very loose with this, very, very loose. And a couple then that kind of comes around down here. Each one sort of has this little flick where it kind of flicks outwards, doesn't it? Now, I'll mix up some more of that again. Titanium white, a little magenta, and a little Naples yellow, giving us a nice warm pink. We have a very sort of a big one coming down here like this, don't we? Let's go again. This comes right out of the painting up here, doesn't it? Again, clean your brush when you're going into the blue because you're picking up the blue. So after you do this, clean your brush and pick up back up more of that pink. Clean the brush again. And we pick up a little more of that color, magenta. with some Naples yellow and a little white. This is more Naples yellow in this one now, okay? Because as it comes down, it's going to start getting more yellowy towards the sunset. This is like a soft salmony colour. Down around the middle, it's very sort of, what would you say, higgledy-piggledy sort of. There's a lot going on down around the middle. So I'm just going to give it a little touch of a couple of light colours, sort of flicking outwards. We have another couple just up in the top here, don't we? I'm going to take that mix again. Titanium, white, magenta, and some Naples yellow. Again, more on the pink side. And I'm going to go up here and just sort of go like this and flick. See that? So it's very loose. Do you understand what I mean? I'm trying to be as loose as I can, while trying to give it a sort of a natural feel as well. Can be quite difficult. You want it to be very sort of natural. The clouds will kind of just go where they want to go. Clouds won't be told which direction they should go in. They're very abstract like that. They will just go where they feel the wind blows them. So try to bear that in mind, okay? Try to keep it as loose as you can. I'm going to put in one more just there, kind of a biggish one, okay? Just I'll leave a flick away. This all looks, I know at the moment, it may look very kind of probably messy and that kind of thing, but I'm going to be softening these with the fan brush very soon. So I'm not too fussed if it doesn't look perfect right now, because when we soften these, they're going to really look nice, I hope. I think they will, to be quite honest. I think they will. Okay, I'm going to start putting in some brighter whitey yellow marks on some of those. So a little bit of cadmium yellow with lots of white, okay? And just try to be patient. It will take time. I don't want any blues on this whatsoever, so I'm keeping my brush nice and clean. A little bit of that colour there, perhaps, and then perhaps just one or two swooping across and disappearing into that yellow down there, look. And perhaps just one or two going that way. The next step now, what I'm going to do, the next step is take my fan brush. I have a very soft fan brush here. This is more a makeup brush, okay? Don't tell my wife, because I didn't tell her. So she has plenty of them, she'll be fine. I'm going to just start softening outwards. Look, I'm going to start flicking this upwards into that sky. Now that's giving us some nice direction, isn't it? Could even give it a little flick downwards if you like as well. Basically, just softening out these brush strokes. These ones as well, just give them a flick outwards. Soften across the middle. You're really just taking the sort of the thick brush strokes off of the colour, okay? I'm just sort of taking the brush strokes away, but leaving the direction of some of them. A bit of green in the middle there, but that's fine. I'll get rid of that, don't worry. And go up here, we do the same with this one here. You see already we've some nice direction here, don't we? Kind of coming across the sky. Now I'll give this a good clean, because look, we have some blue on this brush already. So I'm going to give this a really good clean with a little turpentine. A nice dry. Make sure it's nice and clean. And then we do these ones here, okay? We'll start at the bottom, look, and work our way up. like that. Again, give it another clean. Need to make sure there's no blue on this brush when we're coming down into the yellows, okay? Needs to be nice and clean. Soften that side back. Soften it right in, look. Now, give that a good clean again. That's looking quite nice now so far, isn't it? We're nearly finished, but we have a little more to do, just a little. I'm going to put some shading on some of these clouds. For that, I'm going to use a slightly larger brush, look. I'm going to go for a very sort of a mauvey purple colour. I'll take some magenta, a little touch of blue, and a touch of burnt sienna. So I'm still keeping it pinky, okay? It's like a pinky brown colour I'm going for. I'm going to just take that pinky brown colour. I'm just going to start adding a little touch of shading into some of these. See that? That little touch of burnt sienna is giving us that little warm sense. I'm going to just come down. We have a couple of dark spots down here as well with that colour. It's a pinky brown. That's what I'm going for now, okay? We'll flick one or two of them up and out of the painting as well. You see? Just try to simplify this if you can, all right? You don't have to go to all of these lengths. If you're happy enough with the first 2 or 3 steps, then just leave it at that. Absolutely. That's absolutely fine. Okay? You don't have to be trying to copy this all exactly the same and, you know, try and get all of this effect. I'm just playing around with the canvas now, just trying to get, you know, just trying to add a few little bits and pieces to the painting. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm going to take some cadmium red with some cadmium yellow. Okay, there's mostly red in this. And a little touch of burnt sienna. And I'm going to come down, I'm just going to add a little touch of that dark colour here and there. Sort of just by the sun. A little touch of it just here and there. There seems to be a lot going on around the sun, doesn't there? So I'm just going to add a little touch of that colour down here as well. And look, my last step for this is going to be a small flat brush, some white, and a little cadmium yellow. And very lastly now, I think for this painting, I'm just going to go in and add a little wiggle of some bright colour showing through some of the clouds. Okay, it's just literally a whitey kind of a yellow hue showing on some of these clouds here. And again, I'll soften with my fan brush, soften some of these. Just kind of give it a wiggle around with the edge of a soft brush just to soften them out ever so slightly, okay? Now you could, if you wanted to make this more pronounced, you could, if you wanted to, use a palette knife to make it a little more pronounced. Let me just have a look here. I'm thinking maybe, yes. Should we do some work with the palette knife for a bit of fun? Should we? I think we should, come on. I'm going to take some Naples yellow, some white, and a touch of magenta with the palette knife. I'm going to mix that up with my palette knife, lots of thick paint. And do you know what? Let's just go for it, should we? Let's not be afraid. Come on, let's just go up here and give that a little bit of a... See? Come on, why not? Let's be brave, shall we? Okay, let's just go like that. I think something like that really adds to a painting. I think it does. But more importantly, I want to kind of go for the direction. Okay? That's kind of what I'm after, really, that direction from the clouds. Maybe a little bit around here. Maybe a little bit of that. And how about finally just a little over here? Just scrape it along. Don't be afraid. Come on, it's only a bit of paint. If we make a mistake, we can take it back out again. All right. So, last step, I think, of this part 1 tutorial is to just soften a lot of this back in with our fan brush. Let's go and flick it. Look, just give it a little flick, soften it out. It's really just to take the roughness from that palette knife away. Look, that's all. I'm still keeping the direction the same, but I'm just kind of getting rid of the marks from the knife. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just like that. It adds a little bit to the painting, I find. Let's just soften some of these in here. You can see we've just added an extra layer of interest to the painting. And I'm just going to go back in with some white to the middle of that sun and just again brighten that with some white ever so gently. Look. And one last piece just in the middle, I think. And my friends, I'm calling this part 1 finished. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me turn the camera so you can see myself. I hope you can see me. Okay, and there we go, and up a little, and we're done. That's it, part 1. Okay, we did a lot of talking in this tutorial at the beginning. But I just wanted to share with you how about my canvases and stretching your canvases and that kind of thing. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be right back with part 2. Don't go anywhere. Reflections, they might be a little bit tricky, but look, we'll take our time and see how we go. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing if you have done so. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying my tutorials. I'll see you very soon, my friends. Take care and God bless.